Welcoming in here on the Hooters Hotline at CHGO to CHGO Fire, it is Joe Lowery of Backheeled and the Total Soccer Show. Joe, thanks so much for coming back on CHGO Fire. Really appreciate you stopping by today.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
So I think we got to start with, you're somebody who has talked about how you are an owner of Hugo Cuypers stock. You thought, last year, the fact that he only scored 10 goals was more about the fire than it was about him. How good are you feeling right now about the value of that investment?
You know what? It feels good. It's fun to see an asset appreciate over time. I'm just trying to figure out when to sell. Like, when is the stock going to be too inflated? Can he score a goal in the first minute of every game? Probably not. So maybe that's the point at which I sell, is when people are expecting that to happen.
Yeah, I mean, what about the way he's played? I mean, beyond the fact that the wingers he's playing with are better, as an outsider, has anything stood out to you about the way he's playing? And because I think the big thing that stood out to Fire fans is he's looked like more than just a penalty box poacher so far this year.
Yeah, I haven't checked the numbers, but at least not after this past weekend. But it seems like he's getting on the ball more in more important areas, right? Nothing about Hugo Cuypers and his game as an individual to me looks different, right? He's having more success this year than he did last year, of course. But for me, my take all the way through has been he needs help. He needs pieces. Right. And Xherdan Shaqiri and Brian Gutierrez weren't enough to get him the ball on a regular basis in dangerous areas, and he still managed double-digit goals for a really, let's not twist it, a really bad team last year, right? So you come in and you add in someone in Jonathan Bamba who looks like Dennis Bouanga light over on that left side, and you add in Philip Zinkernagel, who I think is trying to find his footing a little bit over on that right side, and Brian Gutierrez when he's been available, which hasn't been in every game, but he looks like he's taken a real step forward. Everything from structure to personnel around Cuypers makes sense this year in a way that it did not last year, and the production is coming from Cuypers to match that change.
Right, and then the underrated part of the attack when he's gotten limited minutes, but I think those minutes are about to be full 90s as much as possible, is 19-year-old Portuguese youth international right back Leonardo Barroso, who looks absolutely awesome. I mean, if Bamba is Bouanga light, Barroso looks like Serginho Dest light, and that's a whole lot of fun watching on that right side. Joe, obviously you're somebody who has watched a lot of Greg Berhalter coached soccer over the last several years with the U.S. men's national team. I think the standout thing about the way he has guided this beginning of the season is, you mentioned Brian Gutierrez hasn't been available. A lot of guys have not been available. This team has been hit by the injury bug hard. In your opinion, is there anything about the way Berhalter wants teams to play or sets up a team that makes the cogs a little more interchangeable, or maybe has allowed the Fire to, not be totally decimated every single week when a new starter is hitting the bench?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's less about how Berhalter sets up and more about how he communicates those things to his players, right? I don't think there has really been much revolutionary, frankly, about the way he set up Chicago this year. It's a 4-3-3 with a deep number 6 and 2 higher up central midfielders. I mean, there are different pieces as the fullbacks change, but really a lot of the setup is pretty straightforward. But it seems like Berhalter has established clear positional profiles for these guys in a way that they just didn't have over the last way too long, frankly, when we go through the list of Chicago Fire managers. And so if you're Sam Williams coming in to play as a left-sided central midfielder, you kind of know what your job is. You know what the role is. You've trained in that spot. And it seems like that communication element has been super important for Chicago, because really they have been decimated by absences, especially in the middle of the field. And that's hurt them in games. Their rest defense structure has been poor at times this season. Yeah. They've given up a ton of looks in transition. There are cracks, but I think a lot of those cracks are going to be filled in once Berhalter actually has his squad. And it's not in its final form either, even when all these players that are in the team right now are fully fit and ready to go. Has this version of his squad at their best. I think the communication key has been the most important part for delegating some of those responsibilities to the depth pieces.
Right, because, you look at the goal they conceded against Vancouver. It's in the couple of minutes after, it's after a good spell for them. They had just missed a chance. Zinkernagel's best move of the game, and shout out to Takaoka for the save. But, Mauricio Pineda gets caught on the ball in central midfield by 2 Vancouver players, gives it up, and 10 seconds later it's in the net. If Kellen Acosta's on the ball there, that goal probably doesn't happen. So, yeah, I think you still got to wait and see what do the cracks in the team look like when Berhalter has his team together. Joe, certainly while we've got you here, we want to talk about some things that aren't the Fire. For those who aren't familiar, every Tuesday on Total Soccer Show. There's a lengthy MLS discussion. And then obviously Joe and co doing great work over at Backheeled covering MLS and NWSL all the time. I think we got to start with another team who is less surprisingly good, and that's down in Miami. I don't know how it's legal, but they got better. So they're the favorites for everything, right? It's not just cliche to say that they should win everything.
No, I think they're absolutely the favorites for everything in the same way that they were last year. This was a really sharp offseason, I think, for Inter Miami. You're talking about them getting better. I agree, which is a difficult thing to say when you lose Diego Gomez. You don't lose him. You sell him to Brighton for, 8-figure transfer fee. You can do a lot worse than that if you're Inter Miami. But they go out there and sign Velasco Segovia, who doesn't look like he's got the same ceiling that Gomez has, but is a little sharper on the ball in central midfield and can push into an advanced role. I like his game. Allende has looked really good, adding another body in that forward line. Fafa Picault now getting healthy and in this team. He scores a big goal against Atlanta United in Miami's last game. There's a lot to like about the attacking additions, but really I think the way this team is strengthened is in the defense. Noah Allen is another year older, and Javier Mascherano seems to love Noah Allen. I didn't have that on my bingo card, but here we are. And you go and look at them signing Gonzalo Lujan, who's played as a center back or as a right back for them. And them also signing Max Falcon, which is not at all how you say his name. It's nope. Maximilio Falcon, but Max Falcon is just amazing.
His name is Maximum Falcon. That is his
name.
Very
much so. He adds another, it seems like, capable presence in the middle of the back line. And Miami just didn't have that. Didn't have enough of that last year. Messi's going to be messy. He hasn't made a huge impact on MLS this year as he's been dealing with some injury issues. And that is the thing that will limit this Miami team. But it looks like some of their weaknesses have been addressed in a real way. And I don't fully know if this team is all the way done wheeling and dealing just yet.
Right. And hey, if they really don't have any use for Julian Gressel, I know a team a little closer to where I live that could use some midfield help. As for teams, maybe even more so than the Fire, who we didn't think were going to be this good, who's the bigger surprise to you, Philly or Nashville?
Nashville at the moment. I didn't think Philly were going to be as good as they are this season. I mean, they've been very, very strong. What is it? 4 wins in 5 games, right? Something along those lines. I thought Philly were going to be very competent under Bradley Carnell with that return to high pressing and really tapping into the academy. Ernst Tanner won the power struggle with Jim Curtin, and we're seeing the team kind of take his image. And I think it's a pretty good approach, frankly, in a lot of ways. So I thought Philly would be competent. I didn't see them being where they are, but Nashville, I was concerned that Nashville would be in maybe not quite spoon contention, but kind of close to spoon contention.
Yeah, I had them second to last in the East.
Yeah, right. I don't remember where I had them, but it's probably right in that range, maybe second or third to bottom in the Eastern Conference. Mukhtar's regressed. Sam Sturridge has never looked awesome in Major League Soccer. Those are their 2 attacking DPs. Zimmerman is the other one. I just didn't see exactly a real talented squad, frankly, in Nashville. And it's still too early to say, they're going to be a great team. But for them to be picking up some results here, granted, their most recent wins have come outside of the Philly one, have come against Portland and Montreal, who are probably not very good teams. Montreal, definitely not a good team. But Gaston Brugman gets his first start. BJ Callahan has changed how this team plays tactically and given them some more versatility in how they approach things. Nashville have hit in a lot of ways that I didn't know if they would in the early season, and they deserve a ton of credit for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a year of revelations about Nashville SC. I mean, you got Alex Mule's childhood friends with Timothée Chalamet, and BJ Callahan is getting the oldest team in MLS to play some actually athletic, really nice ball. We do have to talk about a team that has been shockingly terrible. That's the LA Galaxy. Do you think they're just injured, or are they actually bad?
Man, I've been waffling. I'll put it that. I know I should come in with a strong take. I know that's what people want. I can see both sides of the coin. I think there's a real chance they might be bad, but I also think we got to see them not be so injured first, right? So Joseph Paintsville hasn't played a minute this season. Marco Royce seems like a guy that you can't count on at this point, right? Because didn't change a lot of games for the Galaxy last season. He's been injured. Like he's out injured right now. He's played 3 games this year. I think he's got 2 starts. And one of those 3 games that he's played has been an actual good performance, and that was against St. Louis City in a home game for the Galaxy. The Galaxy, if Royce is not an above-average attacking midfielder in this league, and it doesn't look like he is, the Galaxy are probably not going to be very good this season. They might be like the 7th best team in the Western Conference, because if Paintsville can come back and be fully healthy, him and Peck are going to be a really good wide attacking pairing. But they need a ball progressor, and they need a central chance creator. And they just don't have that without Ricky Puig. And Puig is the other question mark. We don't know when he's going to come back. I don't think the Galaxy should be counting on Ricky Puig to save them, but maybe that happens too. I think this team might just be bad, but man, I want to see how Paintsville changes the balance of this team and give Marco Royce like one more shot. It's early still, but I feel like we've seen this story before with some other guys who have come in at about his age to this league from Europe. I don't know that the wind is blowing in a great direction there in LA.
Right, and there's a lot. I think even though I would say Royce at his peak was a better player, there's a lot of Shaqiri comparisons in
totally.
How many years has it been since that guy was an every game starter for a team? And I mean, that was the story. I mean, he missed a World Cup because he couldn't stay healthy, and then by the time the next one came around, he was kind of not in his prime anymore, and he wasn't reliable for Dortmund for years. So yeah, it's just, even if it's understandable, it's been really bizarre to see just how terrible they've been this year. I do, though, want to, I was kind of asking you questions about them before and making comments, before I let you go here. As an outsider, anything else about the Fire that stood out to you?
Yeah.
Again, for those of us who are around the team all the time, it's, we can get a little tunnel vision, I think. But, to hear people talk positively about the Fire, it's been weird, like to just hear people have nice things to say. So, yeah, I guess any other big things that have stood out to you when you've watched them this year?
Yeah, I mean, this team looks super capable, and that is a huge step forward for the Fire. They have taken care of business in all but one of the games that you would like to see them take care of business in. It's been a really soft schedule so far, and I'm a little bit worried about what happens when rubber meets the road. Mm-hmm. But if the Fire win the games they should win as like a middle third Eastern Conference team and lose the games they should lose with 2 DPs in their roster right now, you could do a whole lot worse than that. I think Bamba looks really fun. I want to see him be a little more selfish, maybe a little more direct and goal-minded rather than, I don't know, it seems like he's been a little passive in some of those last few moments. I think that's going to come over time. Zinkernagel is a question mark for me still. I think he can do some really fun things. I don't know that the right wing is his best role, where he is.
Yeah, he likes to float inside a lot, which works with Barroso overlapping him. So yeah, I'm interested to see that relationship develop over the years and over the year. And to your point about Bamba, yeah, it feels like he's more of an attention sink right now, and it's creating room for Cuypers, Gutierrez, whoever. And so yeah, to your point, it will be interesting to see if Cuypers becomes like the opposing defenses are just triple teaming him. What does that do? What can Bamba do in the space that affords him?
Yeah, 100% agree. I think there is another step in Bamba's game that we're probably going to see, but I've still been impressed with him so far, even in the early stages. The two things that really have stood out to me the most, overall about Chicago. The first is that Gutierrez looks different this year. Like he looks better. I honestly we talked about Hugo Cuypers stock. I'd sold almost all my Brian Gutierrez stock. I just never saw it. He's not a pure 10. He's not really physical enough to be in the double pivot, and I just didn't see it in his game. It helps when you have a coach who can at least set a game plan and maybe give you some clear ideas like we talked about earlier. He's looked more physical, and I think that's a credit to him and some of the work he did over the offseason, but just looks like a high-functioning piece of this team. And if he is one of the better central midfielders in this league, the Fire ceiling takes it another few steps up the ladder from where I thought it was. So that's one thing. The other thing is I'm really curious, sticking in the midfield, to see how this team is defensively once it is that first choice trio, right? Because we haven't seen Gutierrez, Acosta, and Kouame in the same midfield so far this season. So we don't have that data just yet. But without that first choice midfield, it's been pretty porous at times, where the ball turns over and there are immediate issues going the other way. A lot of interesting rotations and buildup that compromise the central midfield structure, which is not a bad thing if you're going to control the ball and work those overloads in your advantage. But when the Fire lose possession, they need somebody to clean up. And there have just been too many comings and goings in that part of the field for me to feel really confident that, hey, this group can do it, or that they can't do it. I just want to see more. So I love watching this Fire team. Truly, they're one of my favorite watches in the league right now. I think there's talent there in a very, very real way. And things are just so much better for this club now than they've been since I've ever done this job. And that is, it's like actually fun now. And I love that. Yeah. I hope you guys do too.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm with you. I've been around since 2019, and this is way more fun than I have had at any point in that. But hey, whether they're actually good or not, the fact that the Fire are a fun watch, we can't ask for much more of that. Joe, we really appreciate your time again. You mentioned that the Montreal Impact, CF Montreal, swear jar for me, aren't a very good team. The Fire will get that firsthand on Saturday when they host Montreal, and some interim coach after the not helpful in my mind firing of Laurent Courtois. But Joe, thanks again so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks everybody for tuning in to CHGO Fire. I'm Alex Campbell, and I'll see you next time.
We all silly like the mayor.